Hi, guys, and welcome back to episode 2 of Keith Giffen's podcast. I'm not dead yet. Here's the man himself, Keith Giffen.
Such as it is.
Keith, so last week we started to talk about your early introduction to comic book world, the DC and the other failed DC and Marvel stints.
Yeah.
The most common or the most popular part of your stories last week, because I'm sure you probably would have been aware, was the monkey story.
Yeah, it's nothing to do with comics, but yeah, the monkey story.
But still on that vein, we'll start off with a request from 2 people to tell the chicken story, or the chick story.
The baby chick story. Well, like I said last week, we had different runs that we did, Hoff and the Roach. And the baby chick story came when I was sent down to Colts Neck and Cranberry. And we pull up to the place, and there was a small, like a little kiosk where they would just leave all of their mail. They would leave all the mail we had to pick up. We picked up, put it in the van, and we left. This time we got there, and there was mail, and there were 2 skids of baby chicks. A skid is about a yard and a half by a yard and a half, maybe about 4 inches tall. And each skid had about 50 baby chicks in it. And they were just, there was nobody around that we could discuss it with. So we figured, okay, fine. They're in the skids. They're not going to be running all over the back. And so we picked up, put it in the truck, and we're just driving back. And it was okay. The drive back was pretty good. And I got to on the Garden State Parkway at the Holmdel. It was the area of the Garden State Park. If you drive north, on the right, you can see the Holmdel Hospital up on the rise. And as we're approaching there, there's some guy, he just cuts me off and slams on his brakes. One of those idiots. So I slam on the brakes, and the 2 skids of chicks come rumbling up the back of the truck and slam into our seats. And the guy just takes off. And okay, I'll blame this on youth. I was pissed off. I was young. I wanted to catch the guy and do to him what he did to me. So I hit the gas, and truck lunged forward, and the 2 skids full of baby chicks rumbled out to the back and slammed into the back doors, which apparently we had not sealed all the way. They were closed, but they weren't closed completely. It hit the back door. Back doors blew open. The skids fly out onto the Garden State Parkway. They hit the ground, they shatter. And these baby chicks are spread all over the parkway. The ones that didn't die immediately were running around in circles. You could tell the ones that died because they were the red marks. All right, a yellow splat with a red skid. So I pull over to the side, and we go running back, and I'm standing on the side of the parkway. And these chicks are running around, just running around in circles. Nobody stopped. Nobody stopped. So we're standing watching as cars just go by, just slaughtering these chicks, just zoom, 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 just absolutely murdering these chicks. Both of us are standing. We have no idea what to do with this, but we've got a bunch of chicks all over the Garden State Parkway. And when it was all over, we figured, well, no, I'm sorry. Before it was over, when it was happening, I'm watching this season. I look off to the side, and there's a cop pulling over. Apparently, he just saw the 2 long hairs. It was much longer then. Parked illegally on the side of the parkway. And he figured he'd just come and rouse us or do whatever he did. And he gets out of the car. He does the cop thing, gets out of the car and straightens his shoulders and takes a step. And at that point, he must have realized what was going on the parkway. Chicks running around in cars, slaughtering them, and just strolled up to us. And the 3 of us stood there like morons, watching these chicks get slaughtered until it was over. And the cop just looks at us, and looks at the baby chicks, and looks at us and goes, okay, you're back in the truck, and go, just go. There's no way on earth I'm going to try to write this up. Just get out of here. We're going to get out of jail free pass. We headed back to the plant and lied about what happens to chicks.
Okay, so there you go. There's the chick story.
Yep.
So let's send it back onto your professional world in comics as opposed to animal maiming.
Yeah, because we don't throw the turkeys yet, but that's okay.
We'll come to the turkey in another episode. So we mentioned last week how you had an initial stint with both Marvel and DC.
Yes.
That you messed up royally.
Yes.
And then it was on dating the woman who had become your wife, Anna, who saw your drawing and got you an interview at DC.
Yeah, called Joe Orlando out of the blue. I didn't even know she did it.
Now you started doing little, what did you call them?
Little short stories, little horror features for like Tales of the Unexpected or House of Secrets. And they gave me those. They were going to trust me with a regular book. They gave me those, and I was told by Orlando, he said, look, this is your trial. I'll give you this work. You screw up once, you are gone. You're gone. And I was just working on these little ghost stories and meeting all the deadlines, doing the work, no complaints. And from there, they were looking to start a backup feature in the back of the Flash with Dr. Fate. And I believe Mike Barr was the one writing it. So they brought me over there to give me a try on this backup. Still, don't trust him on a full book. Just put him on a backup. We can get rid of him and put somebody else in. And I worked on the Dr. Fate thing for quite a few episodes and made all of my deadlines. And from the work I was doing on the Dr. Fate, Paul Levitz was on the Legion of Superheroes. So he asked me if I would do a couple of backup features in the Legion of Superheroes, Dream Girl and Karate Kid and Projector, just little itty bitty stories that happened in the back of the Legion. And then when I think it was Pat Broderick was the regular penciler, and when he decided he wanted off the book, he couldn't do it anymore, Levitz offered me the lead. And I started working on the Legion, kept making my deadlines, and everything else came out of that.
So let's center this episode on your work on the Legion.
Yeah.
The best person to explain it, tell me what your thought process were and things like that.
Well, it was weird. I started off working off of Paul's plots. He'd plot the issue and hand me the thing, and I would draw it up. I started inserting little extra things, a little scene here, a little scene there that he wasn't anticipating, or I'd do a scene from a different angle. So we started loosening up and just really basically calling me and talking me through it. And then when we got to the main Legion book, when I got through the main Legion book to the move to the front, that system kind of stuck. We talk over the plots and we go back and forth on it, and then I'd go home and draw it. And then maybe the first time I came back, Paul would have one page of plot for me based on what we talked about. So I take the plot. I'd already started the story. So I take the plot, I got on the bus, and I report authority. And when I got to the stop, I'd stand on the corner by the block up to the apartment, and I rip the plot up and throw it in the sewer grate. Then I go back to the house and start working and just hit the high points I remember and throw in my own stuff. And we worked like that for, wow, an incredibly long time. And there was no, cattiness there. It wasn't like, well, I came up with that idea, you have to put this in, or I did this and that. And it just became a way of, I worked like that, a way of working where, you could talk me through a plot or leave the plot to me after you told me some of the things you need. Like I need a Karate Kid and his girlfriend go out on a date and something goes wrong and the villain, I don't know, Star Master comes in, and I just draw it. And as long, I guess it was, I really liked the Legion as a book. I enjoyed doing that book. So I had a certain amount of reverence for the material. So I wasn't doing anything too outrageous yet. And we did that for quite a few years, And I think it was, I believe I left the Legion when I was offered the Justice League. So I couldn't do both. I tried to do both, and it was just impossible. And then I was doing the Justice League, and ironically enough, when I left the Justice League, I got dropped back onto the Legion again. So for a while there, it was those two books that were sort of dominating what I was doing.
So let's stick to the Legion, because obviously Justice League can be
that can be a whole other thing.
An episode or 10 of its own, especially if we start taking questions on Justice League. What was it you enjoyed about working on Legion with Paul?
The freedom, the unfettered freedom. Look, I came on Legion, and the first thing I started doing was making it look like a science fiction book. I mean, Legion would the Legions would go to a planet, mention an exotic planet, and everyone is shaped like a beach ball, and they all live in beach ball shaped houses. Very, very basic science fiction. So I started. I was influenced a lot by some of the science fiction manga that was coming out at the time. The way they approached buildings, especially oh god, what was it? It was about some spaceship that was like also a battleship, and they had all these almost like Dungeons and Dragons had supplementary books. So I flipped through them, and I found out, I started doing more modern, more towering cities, and then eventually I started kind of mucking around with their costumes a little bit, making them more comfortable. Look, I could put the line of bull going, making them look more dynamic. No, it was just, that's a complicated costume. I got to draw it like 500 times. I'll make it easy now. And it was all accepted, as long as I didn't do anything mind-numbingly stupid, or just throw his plot out altogether and hand in something brand new. Paul was good with it. And so was Karen Berger, was my first editor on that. And she was good with it too. So the Legion was a real good time for me.
What were the things you didn't like about working on Legion? Let's stick with first time round.
I didn't like about Legion. No, there's nothing about the Legion book that I really, well, deadlines, of course, but nothing about the Legion book that, no, wait, there was one thing I disliked. Every so often the character would come along that was part of Legion history. The Legion fans really liked the villain, and I couldn't mess with that villain too much. And sometimes drawing those was just, it was mind-numbing. It was
people are going to expect you to name drop names that you didn't like.
Didn't expect me to name drop names.
Yeah, I'm talking about the characters. You just mentioned that.
Oh my! Well, I'll tell you right now. I liked most of the characters. The one I hated him. I wanted to kill him from day one. Was Karate Kid. I could understand Legion superheroes just have everything, all their powers prefaced by the word super. So Lightning Lad didn't just throw electricity; he had super electricity. And Saturn Girl wasn't a telepath. She was a super telepath, and Karate Kid did super karate. And that just really, it just annoyed the hell out of me that he was in the book and he was a member of the Legion. And I stayed on the book the first time around long enough to do the story where we got to kill him. And I think Paul actually dangled that in front of me, like, Karate Kid. So I stuck around.
So, with regards to the first one on Legion, some of the storylines that you would have done, what were your favorites to do?
The Great Darkness. The Great Darkness. Where the funny thing was, it was funny because when I was starting the Legion, I was doing the early stuff, and Paul had this in the back of his mind, and he actually used the idea. He approached me with Dark Side in the Legion, as if that would be the thing that would keep me on the book, just cement me in. And yeah, that was a fun story to do. That was a real fun story to do. And some of the other ones around it were also, well, not as much fun, but they were interesting. But the Great Darkness saga kept me on the Legion for a long time. And it's funny because I think out of all the stuff I've done on the Legion of Superheroes, and you can even include the Justice League, more people know about the Great Darkness saga than any of my other Legion over. And yeah, it was a fun time. I was having fun doing the book. I was enjoying myself. I didn't mind there weren't really any hassles.
So I'm only aware of you since I married your daughter and things like that. And so I've only seen you dealing with kind of characters crossing over in comics and things like that. When you're dealing with someone like Legion, did you have a lot of issues where you couldn't do this with this character because they were off doing this on another book?
Yeah, Superboy was a big problem there. I wanted to try different things with Superboy, but he was, part of the Superman mythos. And yeah, there were certain stories I wanted to do that I knew that, if I did this story, the next story would be the end. It would have to end the book in order for it to be done. The funny thing was that actually continued all through my career.
All right, so let's start spilling the beans. This is the time you get to tell about all the characters you wanted to kill off, all of the
Karate Kid
directions you wanted to go.
Karate Kid, I don't know why. The character drove me crazy. And the other Legionnaires, they were okay. They were okay. I didn't have that much of a hassle with them, and a lot of interesting stories were being told. What other characters?
Well, let's go the other side. Favorites within the Legion.
Cosmic Boy. Quite simply, Cosmic Boy. And he's just power, super magnetism, but something about the way the character was written. He was almost a natural leader, even though the fans would actually vote for the leader of the Legion of Superheroes, which is kind of funny because I think sometimes the fans kind of stuffed the ballot box. And I remember in the middle of the Great Darkness saga, we had the lamest Legionnaire voted the leader, Dream Girl. Her power was she fell asleep and she dreamt, and maybe it was premonition. That's it. No fighting skills, nothing. She was also supposed to be the best-looking woman. The woman that was just any guy she wanted. And yeah, it was just there were some mind-numbing things that went on there. It was just I learned early on that if I'm plotting the book with Paul, I could sort of write these characters off to the side, but when Dream Girl was the leader, he was always there. And it was fun. It was kind of fun because the fans felt like they had something to say about the book, and we were honest about it. We didn't get all the votes and go, oh no, they voted for Dream Girl. Let's say it's Cosmic Boy. We stuck to it. But yeah, that Dream Girl was annoying. Certain of the memberships were annoying. Certain of the villains were annoying. I think it was one. I think his name was Starfinger. And he had the dumbest helmet I've ever seen. Almost impossible to draw right. It had big bulging eyes. And if you turn to the side, yes, certain of them didn't work out. So one of the things I did with Legion with Paul was we started either updating the villains or just introducing the villains, because the Legion of Superheroes, aside from a handful of villains, didn't really have like the extensive supporting cast of villains like Batman or Superman. Their rogues gallery was really lacking. And it was, I have to admit that a lot of my enjoyment on Legion of Superheroes was that it was a book that for a long time was it just was just beyond, just below the horizon. A lot of attention was being paid to it at DC. And then we started picking up sales. And Teen Titans was the best-selling book. George Perez on Teen Titans was the best-selling book DC had. And we competed with them. We were #2 for the longest time. We were competing with that one book. Then all of a sudden DC takes notice. Then all of a sudden all the little people start coming in and saying, well, you can't do that. Oh, you have to do this. It is characters. And it wasn't fun anymore.
So that's something that I've known about you as long as I've known you, is your I wouldn't say disdain for editorial.
Oh,
But
it's
the fact-
absolute it's absolute disdain.
I was trying to be nice.
You know, editors are no, editors to me were just something that I had to put up with. Just had to put up with it. And I'll admit, I would lie freely to them. Hey, they're going to do this in this issue? Absolutely, 100%. I wouldn't do it. And I'd hold on to the pages so that I'd hand it in on the day that they made me change it. We'd mess up printing. So I had an interesting relationship with a lot of DC editors. I don't think I really solidly got an editor that I just respected across the board. I was okay with Karen Berger. You know, I'm not bad mouthing any of the editors I had, but until I got on Justice League with Andy Helfer, that was when I started realizing that, you know, editors are more than just people who, you know, lock up when you're done.
Okay, so editors are now not just a 9-to-5 stopgap. Someone is going to stop putting out what you want in the comic, but you're Keith Giffen. You're the rebel without a cause. So, without necessarily naming names or getting anybody in trouble, what was the worst thing you did to an editor to make sure you got your way on a book?
Basically, you know, the editor, and I'll keep that one nameless, but I would just go in and spin out an entire plot off the top of my head, just make the whole thing up, go home, and do what I wanted. And like I say, hand it in too late for him to do anything. And it was if he decided to go back and maybe change or something like that, would eat into the inker's time. So it was mostly just that. It wasn't. Okay. There was an editor that I got fired, but I shouldn't talk about that because the guy's still out there.
Okay, so if you look at editors that you've worked with, that you just decided just to ride roughshod over, without necessarily naming the editor,
Right.
on which book were you the worst to work with from an editorial point of view?
Wow, the worst to work with from an editorial point of view.
Where it's just, no, I'm doing it my way, get out of my way, let me work on.
Well, the one that comes to mind is Justice League, but that was a great experience because Andy Helfer understood that I could do it. But a book where I can't really think of one where I've just said, if I reach that point, I'd leave the book.
So I'm guessing you never had a "do you know who I am" moment.
No. Never had that. Never had to pull rank because I'd lie. It's like, why would I pull back when I go, yeah, sure, and I know I'm not going to do it.
Okay, so let's sticking with editorial because I know what you're like. What's the worst thing you managed to get stuck into a comic where the editor was clueless as to what it was? Whether it's things you've hidden in dialogue boxes or said in different languages.
Well, I used to, we had, in the Legion of Superheroes, they always said that the reason all these planets got together with all their language differences is that they spoke interlac. It's the universal language. So like a jerk when I was goofing around, so I made up an alphabet of interlac. And I'd leave messages in the comic books, just little slightly off color messages that somebody translated and they can find out what it is. In terms of really doing something to get after an editor, I don't think I ever sabotaged. I could be wrong. Maybe I don't remember. I don't think I ever sabotaged the book that I was on because it wouldn't just affect the editor, but I'd take a certain amount of heat too. Okay,
so if you're listening in and you were an editor for Keith and you've got stories about Keith,
oh yeah, definitely
you need to reach out to us.
Definitely call in.
Okay, so we'll leave it at that for this week. I did want to involve the fans out there because obviously without them, you're just a dude doodling in his bedroom.
Pretty much so.
The one question, well, at the beginning of your career on the podcast point of view, the one question that came in today was your early artwork was obviously influenced greatly by Kirby.
Yes.
Did you ever get to meet him?
Yes. Yeah, I got to once. once I got to meet him, and that was he was up at DC. They were, yeah, I believe he was up at DC because they were doing these reprints of the New Gods books, and he had some little pencil things that we hadn't seen before. And I met him, he showed me these huge sheets. It was about 2.5 foot by regular comic book, 2.5 foot wide. All the original designs for the New Gods characters, the original design for Darkseid, which was kind of different from what we wound up with. All right, all these characters in these pencils, and it was just, wow. I mean, I looked at that, and on the bus home, you know, thinking about that artwork, I thought, man, I should just, you know, shoot myself and be done with it. It was just brilliant. But I got to meet him and talk with him for a while, and it was a short time up there. And then, you know, I think I had a few words with him at a convention he was with one time, but tried to get close to him with lines. And then next thing I heard, he was dead. So, yeah, I did get to meet, you know, my comic book idol, but didn't get to spend all that much time with him.
Okay.
And these are, I'll tell you, he was just like your grandpa. He just assumed that role. He was just a monstrously great guy. Just one of these guys. I can't say anything bad about him.
Okay. Well, speaking about saying things bad about celebrities, let's leave the Mel Gibson story for another episode.
I think so, yeah.
Because that's a fantastic story. It needs more time
Yeah.
than we can do for today.
Yes.
Okay. One other question with regards to your early work. Was it influenced by pharmaceuticals at any point?
No.
There you go.
Nope.
So 2 questions answered. We'll try and get questions answered every week. Obviously, you're here, you're sat in the chair.
I did at one point. Was it pharmaceuticals? I'd been drinking that day, and I'd do too many drinks, but I figured, I got this short story I can work on. I'll see how it works. And I worked and went to sleep. Next morning I got up and I looked at these pages that I'd done when I was laughter, and they were the best work I've ever done to that point. It was just, you know, I rarely stunned myself, but that time I was like, I really did this. Then I realized that what I drew had nothing to do with the plot I was working on or the story I was supposed to do. I just gotten totally loaded and drawn whatever I wanted on the page and wasted it entirely.
Oh, you say wasted. I'm sure that there's people out there would give their grandmother's lungs to get a hold of those pages if they still existed.
Most of the pages that either made an error on or they didn't use. I know people are going to be real upset with this. I'd rip up and throw out.
Yeah, I've been the common thing that we get on your Facebook and your Instagram page is requests for your art, and obviously you're the guy who would just use it as a doorstop and chuck it.
Yeah,
Whereas Anna and your daughter Melinda, they're the ones who want to keep that for prosperity and for longevity. So
it's like, you know, people say, "Don't you care about your original artwork?" I go, no, I did it. It's like it's a weird thing with me. It's sort of like would you want to go? Yeah, do you want to go see the Blue Beetle movie? I don't care. I'll go see it I'll go see it if it's around, but it wouldn't break my heart to miss it because I did Blue Beetle. I kind of know how it ends.
Well, you know how your story ends. The great thing about comic books is that they can have a million different stories.
Yeah.
They don't have to be linear. They don't have to have any rhyme or reason. They can just be.
Yeah. But to be honest with you, for the most part, I find the TV versions or the movie versions, any kind of media version of the comic book characters, it doesn't appeal to me. It's you know, like Captain America. He's a comic book. I love Kirby's Captain America, and then a guy comes up with fake ears on the side of the helmet.
We've had these conversations though, just the same way that you don't want to watch movies about superheroes and comic book characters. I don't want to watch HGTV and see houses, so I can understand that mentality completely.
I mean, Mel had to drag me, and my daughter had to drag me to the theater to watch the Guardians of the Galaxy with Rocket Raccoon. I had no desire to go see it. I was gonna wait till it hit HBO or something.
Well, I was with you that day. It was quite cool. And obviously we have the stories of you taking your granddaughter to the Suicide Squad premiere. I think
Oh,
we'll
yes.
come across that at a later
Yeah.
time. But I think for this, I think we've hit our time for this week. I think it's been a really good podcast. Thank you very much for hanging out,
Sounds
and
good.
we'll catch you again next time.
I'll be here.